space. I'm not so sure. I hope you correct me if I'm wrong. All right, yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember now. Yeah, you did this space. I remember it. You were exactly almost aligning with whatever we see. I enjoyed that so much. Yeah, I've been hearing the background, the discussion with Hollywood, and like it was phenomenal, man. Like everything on there was spot on. It's just that I was quite busy. I had a few meetings, and I was multitasking while listening to the call, the spaces. I was attending other meetings as well. I wish I could, join in, like say some words, but yeah, I actually have a question for Christopher, if this is all right. Yeah, go ahead, man. Ask. From your perspective, since it's almost the same question that you asked, but simply, do NHI have a role in eschatological time or Antichrist time from your Eastern Orthodox perspective? Because most of the time I hear the Western ones here. I'm an Eastern person, but I never hear the Christian Eastern perspective.
Yes, hello everybody, and my name is Christopher. I put it up here in the Greek form, which is Christophoros. If you want to pronounce it Greek, Christophoros. But yeah, I'm an Eastern Orthodox Christian, and I thank all of you. I'm learning so much from you, my brothers. So there's no consensus view on this within the Eastern Orthodox Church. It's an area of some mystery. The entire question of NHI for us, I think, is open. Obviously, we have the traditional accounts of angels and demons, fallen angels and giants, and there's a few categories like that. I'm very interested in this sort of Jinn idea that is a little bit of an intermediate position, and I learned a lot today. But just from my perspective on what I've studied so far and the nature of the UFO phenomenon, it seems likely to me that whatever it is something to do with, interdimensional beings of a higher plane of existence. And they don't seem to be aligned with the Most High God. They seem to be deceptive in character. It aligns a lot with what was said in that last space. And it seems just logical or reasonable to me that they could play a role in ushering in an Antichrist figure, just very much similar to the situation that I think Imran described, where
raising the dead.
Sort of, well, I don't know about raising the dead, but I think he was actually talking about like faking.
Yeah, like a fake miracle of raising the dead. I personally, by the way, I'm sorry to cut you here, but is this the point you're talking about?
Not necessarily. What we know from the New Testament is the prophecy of a great deception or a strong delusion that will fool even the very devout, if not even almost the elect, would be fooled by it, if not for the mercy of God kind of intervening. And so that leaves the door pretty wide open to all sorts of things. But I sort of suspect that a great scenario for someone to take power deceptively would be to intervene in a human predicament of mess. If we get ourselves in a war, there's some great dire need, and they come with the wonderful technology and all these answers, and just just sign up for our team, and you can have all this. You just have to join us or whatever. And someone the Antichrist figure will have these very powerful abilities to work miracles and false wonders. So something like that. It's like not for sure in my view that UFOs are involved in this, but they just seem like they're a good candidate, and they seem to be kind of setting themselves up for that role. And how will they get involved with our nuclear affairs and some of their messaging? So I don't know. but it's possible.
I know Sam has hands up, but before we get to Sam, I do want to add in something, Christopher. I think when it comes to like the UFO, that being involved or being part of the war Armageddon, that's the term used in Bible, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but the war is Armageddon. In Arabic, it's called Malhama. So those two things are interconnected, and I think when you say that there might be a play at when it comes to UFO being involved. From our perspective, I think Sam was trying to get into that. Basically, the Antichrist figure uses these beings, these jinns, right, to help him with some of his miracles, like for example, raising people from the dead. So we could allude to them being part of it, the UFOs in the sense being part of it, but I'm not sure if someone is saying that aliens are probably coming down or something, that might we're not too sure about that. But when it comes to like jinns coming in like the UFO forms and whatnot, we can agree on that maybe. What do you think, Sam? So I'll be honest with you guys. I was raised like I learned Islam as a young person, and then I was completely away from it until when I hit in 2020. When I hit 30, I met the idea of two types of people: people who believe in the shamanistic rituals and believing in other higher beings and never related to aliens. But at the same time, I found out that Mark Sims, as I mentioned earlier, and many in the UFO community are trying to insist or trying to push, of course, not themselves, the humans, but the idea being pushed to them, the idea of reincarnation, which relates, from my perspective, the idea that when you reincarnate to a higher form, if you're a good person, you're gonna be one of these higher beings. So they are trying to shift the narrative from ET into something different. I've seen some reports about saying that military wants to disclose that they made contact with the afterlife, which means the dead. We spoke to them. So I believe that the phenomena have a role to play in this deceptive idea. Beside all the technologies that maybe the Antichrist will have that we do not have right now. So yeah, so this is the part from, and when both hit me that people say the aliens, the UFO aliens, are actually our ancestors who died and became in a higher form. That hit me that matches exactly that the jinn will take the form of our dead parents and dead grandparents. That made me completely start to look into the whole idea. I Actually, that's pretty interesting because, and also going back to the thing, Christopher. One thing that I remember reading, this was a while ago, was on the topic of jinn, these beings, and that they usually mentions of them in the Old Testament or even in the New Testament. But from what I've read, I don't know how well versed you are when it comes to like the early form of Christianity, especially when it comes to like Romans, Christianity under Romans, right? Catholicism that came about from. What I read was there was a time when there were mentions of beings. I don't know if they were mentioned the exact name Jinn was there, but it was kind of in the form of devil, right? But later on, there was a corruption of term, and then later on, it was used as the fallen angels, right? The whole concept of fallen angels, because if you look at from what I read is that the Old Testament doesn't have the concept of literal fallen angel, but then later on it was changed. So I'm not too sure, but Christopher, I don't know if you have any knowledge on that. If you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I can add a few comments about that. And by the way, IREP, are you one of the two gentlemen that was speaking earlier under a different account, or are you someone new? I don't think I've met you.
Yeah, you have not met me. So Imran and Farouk there. So we're all part of IREP. So my name's Afaq Siddiqui. So we're I think we're 5 members, and we're part of IREP. And yeah, this is just me. I usually log in with my own account, but today the person who's in charge of IREP Twitter account was not able to join in, so I'm subbing in for him.
Okay. Can you repeat your name one time for me?
Faaq, Afaaq. Oh, we got Farouk in here as well, so let me add him. So that'll be amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Christopher, go ahead. I know we're talking about the fallen angel topic with the jinns.
Right. So the Second Temple Jewish and early Christian theology of angels and demons is a little bit more complicated than what we've inherited in the modern day. And you're right that there's been some shift there. In particular, in Second Temple Jewish thought and early Christian thought, it was believed that there was this incident that happened, recounted in Genesis 6 and also in the book of Enoch, where the sons of God, which are some form of angelic being, intermarried with human women and produced this giant offspring called the Nephilim, who somewhat terrorized the earth and were part of the cause of the Great Flood to wipe them out. And it was understood in Second Temple Judaism and early Christian thought that the disembodied spirits of those giants were the unclean spirits that would terrorize people and possess people. That they were actually, what were basically the souls of these hybrid offspring. So that was a pretty universal belief in early Christianity. And then there were actually several different groups of angels that that left their station in heaven and were corrupted at various points in the Old Testament. This is something that Dr. Michael Heiser popularized in recent thought, kind of recovered scholarship on this. So in Deuteronomy 32, after the Tower of Babel, the Most High God basically he divorces himself from the nations that are reaching out again for pagan type of relationship with God and the gods, and he disinherits them and basically assigns every nation to have its own particular regent or viceroy, angelic being. And long story short, those guys end up receiving worship as though they were gods. They become corrupt themselves, and sort of the ancient gods of the nations that are in competition with the Most High God and his people. And I think there's a couple other incidents like this. So one of the things that I'm curious to do is to delve deeper into the history of Christian thought on angels, fallen angels, demons, and all the assorted phenomena, and try to nuance the picture more, because I have wondered for a while if there might be room for some kind of more intermediate being, like an elemental spirit or a fairy or what you guys call Jinn, if there's something like that potentially in our traditions, but not so much overtly stated, because we don't quite have anything comparable overtly stated as far as I'm aware, but in the scriptures. But the Jinn is an idea I find has some good explanatory force. So I'm very, very intrigued by this and learning a lot from you guys. So
no, yeah,
glad for that.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Appreciate it for that. A little, background on, where you're coming from when it comes to the topic. Yeah, I remember I read about it, and so it was like a topic on the Jinn, basically, and the author was trying to connect the dots between the fallen angels, the demons that are mentioned in the Old Testament or the New Testament, and linking back to the Jinn, and how he was talking about before, a lot of the popularization of Christianity, there used to be one single term for them. And later on, it was I don't want to say use the word change, but like because of different belief system within the Roman Empire and stuff, they had to adjust to that. And I think that's where the separation came in. I'm not too sure, but yeah. But you were talking about how like the jinns, the whole phenomenon, right? Because I wasn't there in the earlier space that Sam was talking about. So what was something that kind of made you realize that, okay, the jinns could be this
NHI or the phenomenon that people are talking about.
Well, if I may just add a little bit of historical context on the. So I described just a moment ago the kind of early consensus view, and you mentioned, okay, this did change and fall out of favor. And what you see, just briefly, is this happened a lot with Saint Augustine. He's one of the major figures that started this shift, but there's a few others in around 300 to 400 AD. There's a kind of uneasiness with the notion of some sort of spiritual being being able to intermarry and produce offspring. There's a kind of more spiritualization of the spiritual world. I don't know if you want to say it's to do with the influence of Greek philosophy or what, but there becomes a greater nervousness about the kind of pseudo-physicality of spiritual beings. And it's clear from the Old Testament that angels, appear in physical form and do physical things. And it seems like over time, the tradition gets a little more uneasy with this. And at some point, it seems absurd to the people of Roman culture that this could take place, this intermingling. So you're correct that there's this shift. I don't know if you were directing that other question to me or to the group more broadly.
Well, it's you and Sam, but it's fine. If you want, maybe I think Sam would, like to kind of delve into that. But it's up to you. Oh, Sam, I see.
Hi. So, I find something that you said when they find some aspect that sounds disturbing. It reminds me with Plato and these people who used to say that they have a daimon which give them ideas. Even not only the Romans, even the Greeks used to believe in what they called the muses. Like they used to see them as the goddesses of art and inspiration of poetry. That's aligned with also we have, and this is pre-Islamic accounts, like in pagan Arabia, like nowadays Saudi Arabia, that poets used to go to somewhere to have inspirations of poetry from specific entities unseen, and they used to call the area where they go there, and it still exists until today, the Valley of Abkar. Abkar is the word we use for someone who's a genius. When someone is very smart, we call him Abkari because like you're too smart. It's like you're getting the information from there. And the funny part, the word genius, it actually comes from the same term related to Jinn. When the geniuses used to be the entities giving, I think Socrates, I'm not so sure, one of the philosophers, ideas to his work.
Wow, that's fascinating that you have this word apkari, because that sounds awfully close to apkalu as well, which is the divine beings that would teach technology and special, basically occult arts to the ancient Sumerians.
Interesting. Very, very interesting.
Oh wow! And these ones were before Islam, like before Quran or anything, and it was known that they used to debate with each other. The poets that I've learned it from because the Jinn have hierarchies, so the stronger the Jinn, the more inspiration that you will get. Maybe the same could happen with texts.
This is extremely interesting. I've heard of it, but I totally forgot, that, they used to use these terms back in the days. So yeah. So it was a good, point that you brought up, Christopher, linking both of them together. That was beautiful. So yeah, Sam, go ahead and continue on yours, saying something.
No, I was on this point so far. It's just like if we would like to go to another point, we can move on.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question, which somewhat got addressed, but I'd like to ask you guys again on your understanding of the Jinn. How much what is the extent of their ability to manipulate physical reality? Is it temporary, like they can manipulate our perceptions? It sounds like they can teleport stuff, but can they kind of I mean, how far does that go? Can they alter creation? Can they destroy and eliminate or disappear things, or how far does that go?
Okay, I think I've researched few points about these, and even Steve Mira, one of the researchers in the paranormal and ufology, they realized that most of the time they change the perception of the human himself, which also Jack Valley have accounted that 3 people saw a UFO and they're a family, and each one described a different shape. And when they took a picture with their phone, it's a 4th shape, none of what they have seen. I think in the story of Moses, when he came to Pharaoh, there was magicians who used to change human perception, thinking that the sticks and the ropes are swaying like snakes, while Moses had the real miracle and had a snake that ate them. I'm not so sure if it's mentioned in Christianity or Judaism, but we have it in Quran that says that they have used only magic to change the humans' eyes, like what their eyes have seen. They haven't really changed things. However, I think that they can move things from their place, but make them disappear and reappear, like in a poltergeist activity, like.
Sam, can I add quickly? So I think the word you're looking for is deception, right? So basically, what they're just deceiving us, or like by changing our perception of something, right? They're not actually altering the creation. They're just making it seem like to us it seems like it's been changed. It's kind of like deception.
May I add something here, guys? Hi everyone.
Hey, Sam. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So from the part also of moving things, I remember for it the Mira guy. I forgot his full name. That is I'm just
Steve Mira.
Yeah, Steve Mira. He said like some stuff they get it like disappeared for a few days and then comes back, and that reminded me with some of the Jinn experiences that happened in Egypt when people find their like they are farmers, and after they wake up in the morning they found that their cattle got mutilated, their cows are dead, uh, and they found also the birds that they have are inside their closet in the pockets of their clothes. It was outside, everyone sleeping in the room, like the man sleeping in the room, and then he woke up, checking the clothes to get up in the morning, go to his work, and then he found his own birds' heads inside the pockets of his clothes. So, in some way, because they can materialize, so I believe since they can materialize and dematerialize again, they can change stuff from its place, or maybe they have some sort of quantum control into things to
or abduct items, like they abduct humans, maybe.
Yeah, in a way, that's what I wanted to say.
It lines up fairly well with my kind of conception of whatever these beings are, what they're that we witness in the paranormal and in ufology, their range of abilities. I'm in Diana Pasulka's UFO class, and one of the accounts that we heard about was from Australian Aborigines. They have accounts of these beings they call the Wandjina, going way back, and apparently it's sort of widely known that these beings will abduct little kids or infants or very young toddlers. And we heard a particular story, and this was gathered very recently by a anthropologist who gained their trust. And so this is not an old story. This is something recent, that this maybe a 2-year-old or so disappeared for a few days, was just taken, was gone. And because of this tradition of a kind of spiritual association with this phenomenon in the Aboriginal culture, that the mother was not even concerned that the child was gone, because she knew that they would bring him back in a few days and that he would go on to become a shaman, that he would be, a spiritual, he'd gain spiritual powers and have that role in their community. And that seems to me to be very much along the lines of, Jinn and occult or angelic, what we call evil.
I want you to highlight what was the name again, Christopher, and spell it out slowly.
The name of what?
Was it the Magina?
Wandjina. I believe that is WANDJINA.
So the Jinnah, in Arabic we call them Jinnah or Jinn or Jan. They have the same J and Noon association, but they also call them the Wa'ajina and the Ma'ajina as well. The tribe in Australia, I think they have maybe a couple of names for them. But I read, I think it was in Crypto Terrestrials. What was his name? Mac Tony's book. I can't mind the name of the book, but he calls them Ma'ajina, and he said pretty much the same story you did, Chris. Go on, carry on. Sorry, bud.
Yeah, and that was just something we went over in our course, which showed that so much of the interpretation of UFO phenomenon has to do with our, our overall ideological framework that we use to interpret the facts. It's like, okay, here's the facts, but what does it mean? And, where does it sit within your worldview? And so this was an example of people who had a fundamentally spiritual understanding of the phenomenon. And I think that more or less underscores the type of points that we were making in the last space, that this UFO phenomenon seems to overlap heavily with these well-documented, more occultic phenomena.
Yeah,
I just want to say that space was amazing. Thank you, Bloke. I was like preach the whole time you guys were talking. I was like, preach. Like, this is amazing. And I agree with Christopher. It's like, we believe the same thing. We do. We just have different words for it. That's all. Yeah. Like, we literally are all in the same boat, fighting the same enemy, right? And we have to work together. And the way we have to see this is any port and any storm, right? Any port and any storm. It doesn't matter if it's a Christian, a Muslim, a Hindi, whatever. If that's your place where we can all come together and find peace, so these things can't affect us in these ways, and we can be those puzzle pieces for each other. That's the answer. And they hate when we have that humanity, enough humanity to get over our differences and actually, go against them together, despite our different interpretations. And I just thought it was such a beautiful space. And I just wanted to come up and say thank you. It made my day or year or whatever. Thank you.
Honestly, I feel honored to hear that from you, Ophelia. I see you around and, you're quite a good advocate for the topic and you're really well read. To hear that from you, it does honor me as well. And I will say I had so much fun up there. I think Holly did a fantastic job navigating the space, controlling it. She was a great master of ceremonies, if you like. And honestly, it was a real pleasure to work with her on this. And I myself personally, I've been a TV presenter before for many years, so I don't normally get nervous, but today I was super nervous, and she made it really relaxed, and everybody in the space was really just cool, and I enjoyed talking about it. And I like what you took from it, Ophelia. Like immediately, you're like, yeah, we need to get together on this, and I've been like an advocate for that for a while. I think that the people of this topic, we need to unify, and sometimes there's difficult unifying because the people who are kind of at the top, really the influencers of the topic, they tend to focus in on the things I think that we can't really get answers to. They want to keep this sort of carrot right in front of us and come this way, guys. Look, maybe we're going to get some information about it. No, kind of when you assess the history, we know what they are now. We know what they are. We know what they represent. Let's focus on who is working with them behind the scenes. These are the criminals, if you like. And I think if we get together and focus on one side of it, where the whistleblowers, not the influencers so much, but more the whistleblowers, that's what they're concentrating on. There's people involved, like Matt Brown, David Grush, they've said it. There's people there who are very hostile and don't want this to come out. These are the people we need to target, not necessarily the direct disclosure, and because we know they're there. Most of us in this room, I think, are either experiencers or had experiences or know that this thing's real. So we need to get beyond that and say, look, forget that. The juicy stuff and the cool stuff will come post criminal proceedings. And I think that's what we need to get behind. We need to get the governments behind it, and we need to bring to justice. And unfortunately, a lot of the people, I think the same group who can stop the Epstein list from coming out is the exact same group who can stop this from coming out. So these are the enemy, if you like. I think if we can, like you said, Ophelia, come together, coherent and focused on one particular point, and that is to back the whistleblowers and really advocate for that. Keep the discussion on that, not on the secret base that's hiding a UFO under it and all of these mysterious stuff, but focus on the things that matter. We might get the goodies at the end.
Yeah, because Farouk, like when you think about it, it's like it's nested. It's like deception nested in like deception. So I think even the UFO stuff, obviously, as we can, as we sort of know, is kind of a red herring anyway. And it doesn't depict the truth, like the actual truth. I think you have to tether yourself to the telos to understand the system. That's to say that you need to understand the why to understand the context that you're sort of viewing. I like what Christopher said as well earlier on, talking about how the higher dimensions work. Yeah, I think that the way that is sort of stacked in reality is essentially we have 4 dimensions of space-time, etc. I think string theory proposes, 10 or 11. And I think that there is an intermediary dimensions within the 3-dimensional band. So instead of it being like, just one block space that we call the 3 dimensions, there seems to be a sort of gradient process, so nested realities in a hierarchical sense within the 3-dimensional band. And that's where I'm sort of theorizing that the Jinn sort of dwells slightly higher than ours, but still local in a 3-dimensional sense. So yeah. Interesting stuff.
Yeah, it really is. We've had some cool discussions behind the scenes on this. I want to quickly, before we go back to you, Christopher, I know historical tales, bro. You had a story you wanted to share in the previous space, and we did run out of time. So can I invite you up to tell us your story, bro?
Assalamu alaikum. Thanks, Farouk, because I was going to have him over just now, so thank you.
It's okay. First of all, I want to know, is it possible to control a jinn through the Quran? Because the story is linked to it.
Sure, if you, as you like, bro. Go for it.
Okay, I'll tell the story. It was told by a teacher of mine back in, I think it was 2004 or something, when I was in Pakistan in college. And he said that he was very interested in controlling the jinn. And he had a friend. He says he was a very new friend of his. And he was the imam of the mosque too. So there was a time came when he found out that his friend was an imam of the mosque. His friend, he had some jinn under his control. So he said, I was very young and I was into these things, and I was like, I want to get one jinn under my control. So I went and asked him how he does it, because he wants to do it too. So his friend, the imam, he first of all said that this is a very difficult thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do. So he said that I can do it. I'm young and I'm not afraid. So he said that there are some things that you will have to do. You will have to find a place that is completely isolated, which I can tell you where to go. I can manage it for you. I can find out a place for you. Then the second is that you will have to be in wudu, in ablution, state of ablution, and recite the chapter of Jinn, the Surah Jinn, the chapter of Jinn throughout the night. And the third is that you will have to sit in a circle. So he said, okay, I will do that. So he says that he found an isolated house, like not a house, but it was like a room in the woods, in the jungle, which maybe the Imam, a friend of his, might have used it for himself. And he took him in. He took him in there and made a circle for him. The Imam, friend of his, made a circle for him, and he said that you will have to sit in this circle for about 40 nights, 40 to maybe 50 nights. So he was ready. He said the first night and the second and the third, he would go and sit in the circle and recite the chapter of the Quran repeatedly in the state of ablution. So he says those 3 nights, nothing out of the ordinary happened. The 4th night, he says, he went and sat in the circle and started reciting this chapter of the Jinn. And he says at a certain time at night, oh yeah, there's one other thing I forgot to tell, that he said that keep a candle with you right in front of you in the circle and keep it alight. Keep the flame going. So he says that the first 3 nights, nothing happened with the flame. The 4th night, he says, he went and he started reciting the chapter of the Quran, and at a certain time at night, that flame of the candle started to flicker a little bit. So my teacher, he says that I didn't take any importance of it. He said it's just wind making it do that. So nothing happened on the 4th night. The 5th night, he says, he started doing the same thing again, sitting in ablution in the circle, reciting the chapter of the Quran, the Jinn chapter of the Quran. And at a certain time, he says, on the 5th night, that the flame started to flicker, and at the same time, it would kind of like stay where it is, but it would elongate vertically upwards a little bit. And that thing kept happening nearly all night. And my teacher, he said that he said that I thought it must be the wind. So he says it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. Now the 6th night came, and on the 6th night, at a certain time at night, the flame started to flicker, and at the same time it would elongate vertically upwards a little bit. And he says that I again thought it must be the wind, but at a certain point at night, deep in the night, he says that the flame, which was elongating vertically upwards, its length increased upwards. He said that the flame came right up till the level of my face. And that thing, he says, it kept happening all night, continuously. And at that point, he said, I was scared. I was very scared. And I was told by my friend that whatever happens, don't leave the circle. Don't leave the circle at all, because these things can, attack you. If you're not able to control them, then they will control you. Then he says all this happened all night, and the next day, that is the 7th night. Before that, in the daytime, he says that I kept contemplating: should I go, or should I not go? The whole day he was just talking to himself, and in the end, he made a decision that, okay, let's go and see what happens this time. So he went again. He sat in the circle. The flame was there. He was in the state of ablution, reciting the chapter of the Quran. And he says at that certain time, the flame flickered and it elongated till the length of his face, up till his face. And deep in the night, somewhere in the night, or maybe near the Fajr time, that is the morning prayer time for Muslims, he says that the flame, which was elongating vertically upwards, it changed its length, and it just went up, and it just spread around the roof of that room. And he says at that time I was just very, very scared. I just wanted to run away, but he says that somehow I just kept control of myself and kept reciting the Quran, that chapter of the Jinn. And he says that when the Fajr time started, the morning prayer time started, and the call of prayer started, he says that the fire that was spread around on the roof, it started to slowly disappear. So he says that the moment that fire just disappeared, he caught up, and he says I just ran out of that room, and he went straight to his friend, who was the Imam, and he told him everything that happened with him. And his friend told him that, he said, it's not an easy thing to do. So he said, I don't want to do it anymore. I'm not that brave anymore. So tell me, what should I do, because these things might come after me. So he says that he told him to recite some verses of the Quran repeatedly every day. So slowly these things won't come near you. So this was the story, because I was wondering if it's really possible to control a jinn through the Quran by reciting this chapter of the jinn. That's my question. My story has ended, though.
Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you sharing that with us, because I do have a comment to make on it, and I've heard, and we have some listeners in here who maybe don't know the nuances of Islamic jurisprudence and culture. The idea of using the jinn to harm using the Quran to harm the jinn is established, because we use it as a protection. It's there to protect us from the evil ones. But it has been mentioned in the past that some people have used it to torture and use some verses of the Quran to imprison the shayateen and the jinn. And this concept, number one, it's not established in Islamic theology. We don't do this. It's not. You're meant to do it. But I have heard of some people who've claimed to have done it, and whether that's possible or not, I can't really comment on from an Islamic side of things. But if they do it, this is wrong. Yeah. This is like kidnapping. How some of the devils kidnap humans, and we shouldn't go into doing things like that, because this is completely wrong. They're still a living creature. They have lives, and doing these things, sitting there with the flame, drawing the line on the ground or the circles on the ground, and chanting and doing things like that to initiate contact, and then trying to capture and kidnap and punish and harm and torture. This is wrong. We shouldn't be doing that. And unfortunately, magicians do that. That's what they do. Some of them get aid from more powerful jinn. You got to remember, these are some things we didn't really get into with the space with Holly. But one thing I wish I mentioned actually was, in our own people we have quite primitive humans. those who are still kind of like hunter-gatherers, especially North Central Ireland is a famous one. But again, in some areas of like the Middle East or Southeast Asia or Polynesia or these places, they still live a very simple hunter-gatherer life. And if you imagine today we went there, kidnapped them, took them away and enslaved them like they did back in the day to the African people. That's essentially what these people are doing. By sitting in there, getting these ignorant or maybe low jinn and torturing them and imprisoning them and making them do stuff, this is completely wrong. And I think that's what happens. And they have very advanced jinn, those who have technology and like human beings in the UK and in America, we have very advanced technologies. And in some of the Arabian countries today, they have very advanced technologies and systems of governance that exist. And then you go to some places in the world, and they haven't even got trains. They just about got little cars that function as buses and taxis, so they're much further behind. And I think the jinn have similar discrepancies in their society. You have the poor, lowly jinn, the working class jinn, and then you have the elites. And I think that's what goes on there. You can sometimes get an elite jinn who will help an elite, one of the elitist sort of magicians by enslaving jinn for him and making them work for him. And likewise, I think that's what happens with these abduction cases. The story, beautifully, one of the listeners in the group, Ruby, and she's in fact, she's in the group. Ruby is a fantastic researcher. She found that hadith and actually shared it on her wall. That hadith, it points to something that we didn't really get to go into. Imran, you were there as well. But that hadith talks about the enslavement of human beings. That man, when he was captured by them for them years, he was a slave for them. And this indicates that this is common amongst some of the evil ones amongst them, that they enslave people. And that good group that came along, the believing group, they found him and realize that we can't enslave this person. Yeah. And not because they don't enslave people. They said because he is the same as us, like he's a believer, so we won't do it. But they were happy to enslave the evil humans, or who they considered evil humans, and other jinn as well. And that's what they do. So their society, especially then, you can say was definitely more primitive, like it was in the Middle Ages, and the way this sort of feudal society worked. They had that similar system of enslaving people, and it seems to go on to this day. Look at the numbers of missing people, especially in the West. Every single year, 800,000 plus people missing every single year in the Western world. I don't know who's speaking there because it's kind of glitching up space. But go on. Sorry.
Today I came across a strange video on Instagram that you mentioned people going missing. This happened in India, in Dharmasala. There's a place called Dharmasala, and there's a very famous temple over there. And one of the workers over there, who is from the caste of the Dalit caste, the lowest caste in Hindu religion, he came out as a kind of a whistleblower, and he said that he had been getting rid of bodies of young women who were brought into the temple, and God knows what was done to them, and then they were killed, and he was told to get rid of them. And his face was all covered with a black cloth. So this thought came in my mind that maybe these people who were who were running the temple, maybe these people were kind of doing this human sacrifice for their idol gods, or whoever their gods are. This thought came in my mind.
I've heard similar about Hollywood. Sometimes there's been jokes said that, that person parties really hard, you need a clean-up crew to go in. I don't know if some of the people who followed Reddit back in the day, but there were quite a few so-called, I wouldn't call them whistleblowers because you don't know who they are, but there were people who said they were part of the Hollywood underground. And they had similar narrations where they would, particularly certain Hollywood stars who identified they wanted girls or boys, and they would try to target younger ones who have problem families because they're easier to disappear, and they would bring them for partying, and then the thing would be, they partied too hard last night, it's going to be like a difficult cleaning up. And this is it's sick and it's sad, and like people in this room, even though we may be ufologists or phenomenologists or people interested in UFO topic, but it kind of falls into our responsibility as well to investigate these things, because that is the seedy, dirty secret, I think. It's like quite often people ask about what even what's his name, good old Coulthard, mate. Coulthard, he said, what is the big secret here? Why is there such a, why can't we just know about this thing? But once you open that door and you kind of say, guys, there's something here, people are going to look at history, and then they're going to read the books, and then they're going to see, human sacrifice, harm of children, all of this is part and parcel of being in contact with them. And I think that's kind of why it survives in the dark. And that's why, not to sound too cheesy, brother, but being in the light, being people of religion, people of God, this is what this is what is not wanted. It's complete opposite of what they want, because we are people who want to bring lights to this subject, and shining the light on this is the only way to A, get it out in the open, but B, targeting what really matters, and that's the insidious sickness that underlies the phenomenon. I see Ophelia, and quite a few people have got their hands up. So I'm going to defer it to you, Brother Afak, and you can, I don't know whose hand was first and whatnot. So
I think it was Christopher, and then Sam, and then Ophelia. So Christopher, if you can go first.
Yeah, thanks. You've actually brought the conversation around to my question. There was a little bit of a indirect reference in the last space on this topic of babies or children being abducted in association for rewards and special powers through these kind of sick rituals. And there was this oblique reference to someone well known, in our UFO field who is present or encouraging these abductions. And I'm just wondering, I've heard Colonel John Alexander come up in officiating human abductions in the past. I'm wondering if that's who you were referring to, if you're willing to say.
So the dream I had, I'm not going to mention his name, because he is an active person, and he's what I refer to like as a turbo. The guy is a turbo. So if he finds out that I've mentioned his name, I know he's the sort who would try and sue, and so I won't mention his name. But let's say he's old school. He's one of the original UFO people who claimed they gave him powers, and that's as much as I'm going to say. He said he was abducted and they gave him powers, and in my dream, that guy, in the dream I had, I saw in the dream that I was laying down in my dream, and I saw that through the wall came a UFO, and he came out from the UFO, and he effectively, he said to me that we're taking children, and he got back in the UFO and he flew off. And when I woke up, I've had a few powerful dreams since really getting into this topic, but that in particular has really burned into my mind, and it lended a lot more credibility. Not because I knew about the children abduction, but I never considered how the players, shall we say, in ufology might be the very same type of person that I was reading about in the 13th century, who were effectively having these. And just to be clear as well, some of the reports from the 13th century I found that they were disgusted by what they were doing, but they were obliged by the phenomena. So it seems that if you're a sick individual and this happened and you're in that world and you're enjoying it, like they're the sort of people that identify. But this person, he regretted it really much, and he repented, and God knows what will happen to him. Like, God's the most just. He won't let that just slide, and like someone can do harm to children. It's brush it under the carpet. No. There will be none of that. So, but yeah, I don't want to mention that person. I think I did breadcrumb enough for most of you to get who it is, but old school 70s guy, very famous, did a lot of research stuff for certain inside programs, and he said he was abducted and they left him with strange powers. So I think, I've drew a huge arrow towards who it is, but I'm not going to mention his name.
Yeah, Farouk, I've heard a few testimonies as well from people that have done these sort of rituals as well, and they have come back and said that they, people in these Satanist, Luciferian sort of circles, they when they do the rituals, they come back with some form of a sort of ability. It's either abilities or severe impediments. So that seems to be a feature, and you're absolutely correct when you say that. Yeah, it usually involves these sick practices, where and usually children, because the primary motive is to destroy innocence, and it's that's essentially what it's about. So sad times for sure.
I will say that if someone's finished with their question, I think we've got. Actually, no, he did get on. We had a request, and I couldn't get him on, but they're on there, so that's fine. Yeah, we'll go to you, Hassan. Sorry.
Hi everyone. I'm not sure if you can hear me.
Yeah, we can
Hello?
hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So I want to take you guys with me to Egypt, where I will merge the topic with ancient Egypt and modern day Egypt. So we'll start with the ancient Egyptian. In their mythology, there is like the human have three things: the Ka and the Ba and Akh, which is the body, the soul, and the Ka, which is the double ganger in the unseen realm, and sometimes they draw it or make it in a statue that looks exactly similar to the person himself, or in some drawings is looks like a shadow figure that can help the person, guide him, give him some instructions, informations, what to do, etc. The point is why I just wanted to mention this first, that still this idea of having like unseen different personality in the ancient Egyptian mythology, that even after they die, for example, the king, then they put his treasures in the tomb with him, and they believe that his doppelganger, the Ka, which is what we call in Arabic Qareen, which is there, it stays in the tomb to protect the king's treasures from any invaders. So that's in the ancient Egyptian mythology. So if we come now to modern day Egypt, what is going on is, I just wanted to mention that till now, to this year, 2025, what's going on that people who wants to find ancient Egyptian treasures, what do? Usually they go to someone who's claiming to be religious, spiritual, or whatever, and they tell them, okay, for example, we had one man that he used to help people who's having the jinn that caused their house to be on fire and stuff, and the cattle mutilation and all of that. And he says that he expelled the jinn from their houses, and this man suddenly became a senator in Egypt. What happened later on, that this man got called by the police while he's a senator, and the reason is that he was caught in the biggest case of ancient Egyptian treasures to be digged out and stolen. So how in Egypt throughout the years people find the treasures that buried inside tombs that no one knows that there is a tomb there. Some people, it's under some houses. So what they do, that they communicate with the jinn, and the jinn tell them the exact location. It's what nowadays they call it remote viewing, but in Egypt we just say that he just communicated with the jinn and they told him where is the treasures. So that senator that got caught by the police for the biggest case of treasures in Egyptian history as a case in a criminal record, And in front of the judge, they asked him, "How did you know the location?" And he said, "The jinn told me about the location."
You know, Sam, I want to pause you there because I want to come back to this in a moment. Just for those listening, there is a actual research piece done in the Journal of Mediterranean Archaeology on this exact specific topic of people using jinn to discover treasures. So there's real research in the archaeology, Mediterranean Archaeology Journal talking about this topic. But because we've got so many hands up, Hussein, you hit the crux there of the story. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. I'm going to go to Ophelia. I think, Imran, you got your hand up next, and then Kiki as well. Kiki, I will send you that recitation, no problem. Ophelia, you're up next.
Yeah. So one of the things I thought was really interesting from your talk was, how these jinn kind of have power over air or flying to an extent, right? So the first thing is, so in Christianity, one of our descriptions of the devil is that he's the prince of the power of air. And so one of his abilities is to be able to manipulate air. And then that might be one of the reasons why he tried to tempt Jesus to kind of levitate, basically like jump off this building. Can you do what I do? Because his ability is to be able to fly. So I thought that was a cool thing in terms of the person from the 70s who you envisioned you saying yes for abducting children, and he's very well known. Little known fact about him was his birth mother was actually a NASA engineer, and he found that out. And the occult connections between NASA, the occult connections and NASA can't be ignored, right? So that might be a connection between why he had a contact experience because of his mother and her job. Furthermore, I wrote things down so I could be brief. Ross Coulthart. So I spoke to a contact who drove him to and from contact in the desert. This friend let me know what's going on with Ross personally regarding this subject. Ross has been given a message on an almost intuitive or like a heart faith-based level that he cannot make money off of this topic because it's spiritual. He's beginning to think it's spiritual. It may not be something he'll say on his broadcasts, but he's starting to lean that way. And last, what was it? Travis Walton, can't make money off the subject, Prince of the Power of Air. I think that was basically it. Sorry. So yeah, I just thought all those things in relation to what we're talking about. Oh, and familiar spirits. That's it. So in Christianity, we also talk about familiar spirits that will masquerade as people you know, like your mother and your father, to try to trick you. And there's even a famous story about the witch of Endor who called in a apparition, and I think it might have been for Saul. And it was
Samuel.
Apparition. Samuel, that's it. And that apparition was false, and it wasn't really who was called in. So, and so that was something that spoke out against as well, trying to bring in apparitions and mediumship and such. So, I just think it's so cool, all the similarities and for most of his life.
I don't know if it's me, but right at the end there, Ophelia just completely went robotic. So we kind of lost her, I think. But I heard what you were saying. Yeah, it was bang on, and I really appreciate it. And there's things I need to learn about as well. So if you've got anything cool to share with me, I know little Moses, you always share cool stuff with me in my inbox. Send it over, Ophelia. I'm always trying to learn more. So appreciate that. And I'm liking the brotherhood / sisterhood going on here. It's good. I think we're kind of on the same page, and I think if we can just sort of grow this little micro community of ufology where we can really focus in, we may not all agree on everything, but focus in on who the evildoers are and support the whistleblowers in getting those people out. Forget about what's hidden behind the doors. That will come once we bust out who the criminals are, and support the whistleblowers and help protect them, and ask the government. I mean, not that it will do much, but ask for the protections that need to be in place for the whistleblowers, that sort of stuff. So, Imran, I'm going to hand it over to you, bud, because you've been right there waiting for a long time. So, and then we'll go through. I think Kiki was next. I'm not sure if Red Panda had his hand up at one point or whoever it was. I think the faces have changed on their positions on the thing. Anyway, yeah, let's roll to you, Imran. Sorry, bro, you do your thing.
No, I just wanted to say hi to everyone. I guess this is the night shift for part 2 of the session we had earlier. But Ophelia, fascinating points, especially about Colt Heart. You know, me and Farouk have had this impression. Farouk actually spoke to him via email. We know he came from a very secular background originally, but when he got involved in this topic, slowly over time, his perspectives have been shifting. And it was, what you said makes complete sense. That he is, because you could tell the way he talks about the topic now, the way he engages it, that he's attending these viewing meetings, C5 type things, and but the concern there is because he doesn't have a framework per se, he can easily be misused and misled by the phenomenon and by others as well. And as the other thing I wanted to mention, I think a lot of people here on this group, you know, the perspective that we're aware of, you know, whether you refer to them as the Jinn, Lucifer, the devil, Shaitan, Iblis, we're talking about the same entities essentially. And others from outside of Christianity and Islam will refer to them as elementals, skinwalkers, fairies, fays, the good people, what else, man? All sorts, from all different cultures and backgrounds. These beings have been known and recognized in all major cultures, in all major world religions. And I think we're onto you know, something, we're onto the right end of the stick, if you like. And one of the few things to consider is that this narrative or this perspective is not going to be taken easily for one. This is not the perspective that people that are pulling the strings would want to be front and center. You know, so we have everything working against us in some ways, but I think this perspective is the strongest. It's the strongest argument. It's the strongest inference. It comprehensively addresses the phenomenon from every single angle, literally. You know, I mean, whether you look at it from the psychic aspect of the phenomenon, to the hitchhiker effect, to the possession stuff, to the summoning stuff, to the appearance of it, to it deceiving and lying, you know, from any angle, this perspective is the most coherent perspective. And I think we need to push that as well. Yes, we're coming from a religious perspective. Me and Farouk from an Islamic perspective, some of our friends here from a Christian perspective. But that doesn't undermine the argument. Sure, there'll be people out there that don't recognize religion as an authoritative standard in today's world. Nevertheless, the argument stands alone. It's a very strong argument for the inference of an inference to the best explanation, or an abductive argument, as I said earlier. And you cannot counter that. Now, I wanted to quickly share with you guys. Let me see if I can pull it up. Me and Farouk formulated this in sort of formal logic and a philosophical perspective. And I'll tell you why something like this will be very powerful going forward, especially when we talk to people that may resist this perspective. Because when it's in a logical deductive form or a syllogism, they can't undermine it unless they attack or break down one of the premises. And this puts us in very strong stead. So I'll share the argument with you first. Maybe we can discuss it later on, maybe not now, maybe it's too late, but something for us to think about and, you know, food for thought, I guess. So premise number one, and again, we're talking from an Islamic perspective here, but you can always add this as a religious perspective, including Christianity too. But I'll just share it as I have it down. Premise number one, Islamic source texts describe the jinn as real entities with distinct abilities and behaviors. Premise number two, these descriptions align closely with the core features of modern UFO phenomenon. Premise three, alternative theories, whether extraterrestrial, psychological, future human, or otherwise, fail to account for the full breadth and depth of the phenomena with comparable coherence or explanatory scope. Therefore, in conclusion, the Jinn hypothesis offers the strongest and most comprehensive explanation of the UFO phenomenon. Now, this is significant because putting it in this form if someone wants to disagree with this, what they have to do is they have to break down or refute one of the premises that we've shared. And the only premise that they can really target is the third premise, which is that this is the strongest hypothesis compared to the other alternatives out there. So I'm just sharing this with you guys, something we could probably build upon. We could probably broaden this out if we look at it from a more general religious perspective as well. And I think it's important, I think Proof mentions this too, that the more we work together as Christians and Muslims in this area of discourse or in the discussion, it will give us some more leverage. And I think it's important because this aspect of the discussion is really undermined in the current discussion. Everyone's approaching it from the empirical perspective, the scientific perspective, the skeptical perspective, but no one is looking at the religious perspective or the theophilosophical perspective. And I think we have a very, very strong case. If not, I would argue the strongest case based on what's on the table right now. As hard as it may be for people to acknowledge or accept or believe or even want to recognize for other reasons, it's important that we bring this forward, because at the end of the day, all of us are trying to get to the truth of the phenomenon. And I'm not trying to undermine the role science has to play or history has to play or other disciplines have to play. It's all relevant, but the religious perspective needs more time and space in this discussion. And unfortunately, that's not happening. Professor D.W. Pasulka is doing a brilliant job from the Christian perspective, and I really rate her for that. She's doing a phenomenal job to keep the religion in the discussion. But I think we can really strengthen this more and bring this forward. Okay, look, let's present it to you logically. Okay, now it's a logical discussion. It's an objective discussion. And I think that'll be a strong way forward. And the last thing I wanted to mention, I know I've taken a lot of time, is considering the fact that we really recognize what's going on, we have to also recognize that this comes with a lot of, how do you say it, fruit, man? The phenomena keeps an eye on you. As much as we're speaking about it, it's got its eye on you as well. Yeah, so we need to protect ourselves and don't undermine that. Keep on top of your own protection and safeguarding yourself because this stuff is real. And Farouk would tell you, I would tell you, I mean, I'd never had any experiences. Well, I had some when I was younger, when I was a child, but never throughout my sort of adult life until I started researching this topic. And stuff started to happen. And I started to see things Farouk was seeing and experiencing things. And I'm very skeptical from this perspective, but there were certain things I've seen which I couldn't, break down or explain in sort of mundane, materialistic terms. So you have to take care of yourself and protect yourself. Because remember, it can only affect you as far as what you see. I mean, psychologically, it can have an impact. Mental health can be affected. All of this type of stuff. Physical health. So stay on top of your protection as well. So yeah, I just wanted to share those things. Thank you, man.
Go on, Afaq.
Yeah, I was gonna say Kiki was waiting for a while, so let's hear from her.
Hello? So can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, perfect. So I just wanted to add some food for thought regarding this whole idea about human sacrifices in Hollywood. I commented in the space that you guys were in previously, but I just kind of want to expand on that. So we have to kind of reflect that humanity has a long history of human sacrifices across cultures. So I'll give you 3 examples. From the Neolithic Bronze Age, we have the bog bodies that show signs of ritual killing. There's trauma on the remains. Ancient China, we also have human sacrifices towards ancestors and deities from military victories. In the Inca Empire, we have child sacrifices made to, mountain gods. And we have the mummies on the Andes as proof of this. And I say that for us to, think and maybe consider that it's possible that there are, modern power structures like, the elites in Hollywood that may have reshaped, this barbaric practice of, sacrificing human beings into a more like subtle or like symbolic form. So we're not that different from our ancestors, I guess. And maybe we should, also come from a point of humility and, consider that things like this, ugly things like this, are still occurring.
You hit the nail on the head, and I kind of think that's what where I was going with it in the last space. The darkness is definitely where we need to target, because trying to go through the process that we're being told is the way for disclosure. Like, let's go talk to these guys here. Maybe they'll give it a hearing where we get to hint at things that we're not allowed to talk about. I think that process has played its part. It showed its usefulness, to be polite about it. And I think now we need to really say, look, tell us who it is, give the names so we can expose what's going on. Because without exposing, without naming names, and without trying to get to the nitty-gritty, we're not going to get to what is being hinted at. Like when Grush was saying, perhaps insidious things were done in the Psionics program in the past. We don't want to hear hints. Give us names, give us what happened, give us the anecdotal data, give us the reports, give us what they did, give us the results, so we can bring to account these people. What we find in the books of old is the exact same thing that's happening now. And as you just mentioned, Kiki, human sacrifice is something that went on for decades, centuries, millennia prior to today. And we have to get our heads around the idea that it's happening still. 800,000 people going missing in America, I believe just America alone, is outrageous. Why is the news not going mental about it? If a tragedy happens, whether that be, terroristic in nature, whether that be weather related, of a number of a few thousand people that die, there's outrage in the news. Why isn't there so much outrage about the missing people? Well, because probably the ones who control the news and let you know about what's going on with Epstein, and let you know about what's going on with ufology, and let you know about what's going on with the world, the ones that make you want to talk about, the latest catwalk sensation and nonsense like that, is the same one that doesn't talk about the missing people, that doesn't talk about Epstein, that doesn't want to talk about ufology and so on. So I think that's where, if we can become a bit more what's the right word? Communify. I think I just made a word up there, but as come together as a community. You know what I mean? To work with this. Sorry, it's late, guys. And I started I was out of bed at 4 a.m. I drove all day, and I'm not lying, yeah. You know when we went live, I was literally 1 minute from being in the home, and just finished my prayers, and I jumped on the call. So my mind is banana right now. But I think people like you, Kiki, Ophelia, and Red Panda as well, man. I like the fact that every time I see you're just putting the boot in someone. It's quite funny to observe. The dude's always after somebody, man, and exposing something. So we need all you characters, and like I said, we don't have to agree on all the theology, but if we just stick together and keep our foot on the neck of the devil, if you like, and not let this wiggle out or become a thing about, guys, the technology though. What about what we can do with the technology though, guys? Come on, just talk about the technology. No, forget the technology. We want to talk about who's behind this thing, who are the dudes that are working with it. Let us get to them, and then the byproduct of that will be the technology. Once we get our hands around the throats of the devils, and like the old school bully, when you shake the dude, the coins fall out. But this bully's an old bully. It's got its families that it operates with. It's got its elites who are very wealthy and powerful, and they will disappear people. People can die from, poking down the wrong holes in this thing. But at the end of the day, our people, the religious folk, have always been against these guys, and generally the Lord lets us win in the end. We may go through an ups and downs, but in the end, with the righteous, as we say, as the prophets always said, all of them said, that the end belongs to the righteous people. So, as long as we're righteous folk, I'm sure that we'll have victory in the end, and I see this as a spiritual victory as well. It might sound a little cheesy, a little bit dramatic, and it is late at night. Maybe I'm being a little dramatic, but I do think that having this unity with each other and really focusing on what we're trying to do here, I think we get a little bit further. it's about getting some of these bigger names though on board. I think someone like a Pasulka, if we could, get people like her, not necessarily her directly, but people like that who have a voice and feel the same way, that to expose the insidious side. Maybe even the whistleblowers a bit more on side with us with regard to that. Matt Brown seems like a dude who had a shock to his system and wants to get this out in the open. If we can get people like that just to sit down and we formulate a plan together. I'm not saying us and him, but like all of us in this room together, and the associated, like you guys know who's similar to us. If we can all come together and focus on one thing, and that's like get to the bottom of who is working with this phenomena. Who are the people? We don't need to know the phenomena, that will come later. I mean, we know anyway, but like to get the evidence of what it is and to get our hands on the technology and what that looks like and the cool, fun stuff, that will make us, that will vindicate us, let's say, the vindicating evidence, that will come after we find out who's behind all of this. And the whistleblowers know, and they probably know a little bit more about the direct names. I've got a few names that I've wrote on a little list that I think are involved, and some of them look really innocent, geeky blokes, but their name pops up everywhere I look, and I don't mind sharing it. Actually, there's one guy. 1 second, I'll pull his name up. Bear with me.
It'll be good to get Red Panda's. Once you're done for it, get Red Panda, because I'm sure Red Panda's looked into this specific thing you're talking about as well. I'm sure he'll be happy to share some of the dirt. What's going on back end?
I'm going to share a name, and I'm going to ask if anybody's heard this person's name before. Bear with me. About us. Let's go to the About Us section. So this is from the Atomic Weapons Nuclear Securities Technology in the UK. These are the people who are in charge of our nuclear material. Yeah, and what I've long been looking at these. I know many companies who seem to be associated with advanced technologies here in the UK. There's one particular site that I saw something incredible, and it was less than a mile away from this site, and it is an advanced propulsions research facility. It's a highly secure facility. And anyway, his name is Dr. Steve Rotler. Has anyone heard of him? Just like
doesn't sound familiar, actually. No.
Okay, if you look up Dr. Steve Rotler, Rotler, and you look at his history, the guy, just to give you a brief, he's currently serving on the AWE board, the Atomic Weapons group here in the UK, and he works as a non-executive director. He's also a senior vice president for global laboratory operations at the Batil Memorial Institute. He represented Batil in management and operation of national laboratories for the US National Nuclear Security Administration. So he is the guy who controls the operational objectives of Batil Memorial Institute with regard to US National Nuclear Security Administration. Steve was also the Deputy Laboratories Director and Executive Vice President for, guess who? The National Security Programs at Sandia National Labs, prior to his retirement in 2017. In this role, he led the laboratory's nuclear weapons program, and he was responsible for Sandia's counterintelligence program. This dude is the dude. He held all the positions that really mattered in the places that he's not right at the top. He is the guy just below, or a couple of steps below, where everybody keeps saying that that's where the control is happening from. Dr. Steve Rotler. He held other executive roles during his 32-year career at Sandia. So his career goes way back into the 80s, including vice president of Sandia's California laboratory. In this role, he managed Sandia's site in Livermore, California, and led Sandia's energy and climate business unit. Steve is a fellow of the American Association for the Advancement of Science and a fellow of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. Dude, energy, astronauts, he's there, guys. He is a recipient of the U.S. National Nuclear Security Administration Silver Medal for Distinguished Service, Department of the Air Force, he's associated with the Air Force as well, award for exemplary civilian service, and Texas A&M University Dwight Look College of Engineering Outstanding Alumni Award. And that's what they've been willing to talk about, publicly. Guaranteed, if you were to get hold of the dude's real CV, you're going to find our stuff there. And I'm sure his insignia board at home, his little cork board with the pins for it, is probably a very interesting insignia. Like I said, he's the guy that was in the positions that, you know, are associated with nuclear weapons or nuclear activity, and all of the major institutes that we have said that where these research probably occurred. So he is the guy, and now he's, you know, he not only is he international as well, he now serves here in the UK. So a guy with this distinguished American history in nuclear physics is now like part of the Atomic Weapons Authority here in the UK. So yeah. Dr. Steve Rotler, if you put the feelers out, guys, if anyone gets anything back, it'd be interesting. But I think he's probably one of the guys that we're after, or at least in a, should I say, an applied level. Maybe not at a, majorly sinister level, but you never know. They always look like little geeky Nordic, but then they're, you know, sometimes very sick individuals. So
Then you find out they're a Satanist and...
yeah, exactly. You know, you go to the wrong party, bruv, and you see him like in a, you know, in a sea of men. Anyway, I don't want to go into that sort of stuff. But yeah, that's the type of activity people do. Just you only have to look at what's that guy's name that you were talking about earlier, Ron, back in the 1950s. The rocket guy. What's his name, Ron?
Jack Parsons?
Jack Parsons.
Yeah, Parsons is, you know, you would think on paper he sounds like a classic physics dude who's, you know, really chill and just wants to learn about, you know, maths and physics. But in reality, he was a mental case. So, yeah. I thought I'd throw that. I can't remember why I went into that anyway. But there's a load of hands up. I'll leave it to you, Afaq, man. I think Hussam was next. Or
we'll have Christopher and then let's go to Hussam. Christopher.
Hey there, sorry, I missed the mic button there. I have a couple follow-up questions. I'm just trying to get the kind of basic ontology of Islamic, the other beings. And I'm getting the sense, if I'm understanding correctly, that Islam does believe in angels, and they're further removed from us than the jinn, who are sort of straddling this halfway. But Islam, am I understanding correctly that there's no notion of fallen angels in Islam? And are there demons that are separate from the jinn? Just trying to kind of get the bestiary of spiritual beings right.
All right, Imran, I don't know if you want to take that or Farouk.
So I think you're pretty much spot on, bro. There's several beings that are mentioned, but those that have relevance to us. So yes, there's the angels. They obey the commands of God, and they are, you can say, further removed than the jinn are from us in proximity. The jinn and the human beings, they share the same fundamental purpose, which is to know God and to worship Him, as implied in the verse. And therefore they are beings with free will as well, just like us. They occupy, again, speculation here, a close dimension. They enter ours and then leave. They see us from where we don't see them. That's another verse in the Quran, that the jinn see you from where you don't see them. Now, as far as the further categorization, we don't have fallen angels. So the concept, if you go to the origin story of Adam in the second chapter of the Quran, you see the narrative play out, which is that, and this is where some of the sort of differences may lie as well between Christianity and Islam. Some earlier individuals thought Iblis was recognized as one of the jinns that's singled out.
Let's call him Lucifer, bro, just because I think that's what they call him.
Yeah, Lucifer, Iblis, same thing, one and the same. He was a being that worshipped, a jinn who worshipped God a lot, and therefore was raised up to the level of the angels, meaning he prayed to worship God alongside the angels. But he was a jinn. And some people got confused that he was probably an angel because he was praying alongside the angels. However, his true nature came out when he was tested with the creation of Adam. And at a point, God tells the angels to prostrate to Adam out of respect, not out of worship. All of them fall into prostration because they obey the commands of God, but Iblis or Lucifer doesn't. he refuses to because of his arrogance and his pride. So the concept of fallen angels, we don't have that, but he was a jinn that was worshiping God amongst the angels. So the jinn is a separate category here from the angels. As far as demons and stuff, we will say that they come in the categorization of the jinn. So they are good jinn, meaning believing jinn, worshipping jinn, etc. Then they are evil jinn, and there are different categories of evil, how evil jinn can be. So demons, we would say, are some of the worst of, if you wanted to see the equivalent within Islam, you'd say some of the worst of the evil jinn. Because of their actions and what they do and how they behave. Now, there are also further categorizations, most likely, between the types of jinn. There are probably loads of different types of jinn that have different capacities and abilities. We know in Arab folklore, for example, there are certain jinn that were ascribed to the air, and certain jinn that were ascribed to the land, and so on and so forth. So, and certain jinn that did certain things and were known by different names. There were many different names they were known by. So I think the further categorization, the equivalent in Islam will be just different categorization within the species of jinn, as opposed to a different kind of entity.
Okay, I want to add to that, Imran, just quickly, Christopher. Sorry to interrupt, brother. There's another category of jinn we call al-jassasa. Al-jassasa, they're described as, they sound like Bigfoot, bro. That's essentially what the hadith says. A 1400-year-old Islamic tale, not tale, it's an authentic hadith, and it's authenticated by the Prophet himself. The actual story himself, he says, is a legitimate story, and it's narrated that there was a beast that you could scarcely see its front from its back. It was just like, when I read that initially all them years ago, I thought of cousin It from the Adams Family, like it's just this hairy thing. But over the years, and seeing the association with Bigfoot and ufology, I see it as a jinn, and it also carries a title. Al-Jassasa means the spy. So it's like some of the scholars said it was a title of a type of jinn that would spy on the people, and it used to go around spying on people. It's a shape-shifting type as well. But the fact that we have like a narration that talks about a hairy giant beast that sounds like a Bigfoot is, as you mentioned earlier, if it quacks like a duck, floats like probably a duck. This thing sounds like Bigfoot, and then all these crazy, no offense to the Americans, these crazy Americans going, "There's a Bigfoot, we've seen it, and it's associated with lights in the sky and UFOs and that." Dude, when that comes out, you're like, "Oh, okay, there's some credibility to the Bigfoot narrative now," because we have it. I mean, we have to accept it simply because we have it in our stories. We accept that story, but then when you see the associations with Bigfoot, it's like, oh, this is crazy. But yeah, sorry, Imran, I didn't mean to interrupt there, Giza. And you, Christopher. Carry on, guys.
No, I was done. Back to Christopher.
Okay, yeah. So, couple follow-up questions. In Christian and Jewish accounts, the Genesis 6 creation of giants comes from this intermingling of the sons of God and the daughters of Adam. And I'm wondering, does Islam have the account of giants, and how are they explained in their origins? Is it from a supernatural intermingling with jinn, or where did the giants come from if Islam recognizes those?
So this is an interesting one, bro. I know Farouk has a lot to say on this, but just my 2 cents on this, yeah. As far as giants, yes, there are narrations about, firstly, humans being larger than they are currently in modern times. When you go back in history, all the way back to Adam and his early progeny, so humans were generally bigger, and they were considered giants according to today's standards. But they are, like Farouk mentioned in the other space, that there's a lot of text and information on jinn-human marriages, hybrids, what you would call them today, hybridization, and the early scholars especially, wrote a lot on this. So there is that within this Islamic tradition as well, the way humans or jinns cohabit together and produce offspring. How that exactly works, this was something the scholars speculated on. Possibly it's when the jinn take on human form. Now, one way to think about this, and again, I'm just speculating now, and it's late, but I'll just put this out there. See, assuming the jinn are plasma-based life forms, now that's a state of matter, the fourth state of matter as they refer to it. Now, when they shapeshift or take on the form of, say, a person, there's a shift of matter possibly that's taking place here. So they're going from a plasma state to a material, physical, solid state. And we know from other narrations that when the jinn take on forms, they are susceptible to those forms. So, for example, there's a narration of when a jinn took on the form of a snake and it was killed in that form. So it was susceptible while it was the snake, because possibly there's a shift in the state of matter, and therefore when it came into our realm and appeared as a snake, then it was susceptible as any other snake is to, killing it or hitting it or whatever the case is. So it's possible, again, speculating from this, that the sort of relationship between humans and jinn, that's probably one mechanism through which it takes place, which is when they take on a human form, then they are like humans in that sense, so therefore they can procreate, I guess, in some sense. But again, this is speculation, but there are narrations. Point being, going back to your point, a lot of early scholarly work on jinn-human relations, basically. Whether it was accepted or not, this was a different discussion. Most of the scholars, as far if I'm mistaken, correct me, most of the scholars came to the conclusion that this was not something that was encouraged. At the very least, it was something that was discouraged. Some of the scholars said that this was forbidden. And there were a small group of scholars that said that within certain circumstances it was allowed. So these are some of the legal rulings in regards to this case. But yeah, anyway, that's just some additional information.
It's thanks, Iran. You nailed it. I think it's amazing that you can find an old, book of Islamic law, which is like a book of jurisprudence, like a law book, where they actually go into details discussing the minutiae of laws between human and jinn hybridization. It's quite fascinating to see how seriously they took the topic that long ago and how it's laughed at and mocked today. And I'm just sitting here thinking, we have books on this actual thing, and people think it's ridiculous, but it was so it was such a hot topic of the day that multiple scholars wrote about it. And as you mentioned, Imran, the vast majority of scholars viewed it as disliked. And their argument for being a disliked relationship is that Allah mentions that He created man and the mates that come with, so you get mates from yourself. So Allah is encouraging us to seek mates from among the human being. But there was a couple of reports that I read whereby the jinni, excuse me to the ladies in the room, but the female jinnis were very beautiful. And, it was put that, you couldn't be blamed if you did end up marrying one of them. And perhaps it's the same for the ladies as well, when they come, because, I think there's so much to be said about this that it warrants its own special discussion. And, I'd love to share some of the findings we found. But by all accounts, not all of them are ugly looking little reptile or bug looking things. I think they're the evil ones, come in forms.
Yeah, Farouk as well. Also, as well, just to add to this, it's like you see it in the folklore when you have these sort of demigods or whatever, where you have men, normal people sleeping with these beings, whatever, the Greeks or the Romans used to believe that they were. And then they create these sort of intermediary offspring, like half human, half, for them, what they would call a half god, but we know it's half jinn. It's embedded into the sort of culture, into the sort of myths that we kind of repeat and circulate within this, our society.
Yeah, and it's appearing again, guys, as well in the UFO discussion. This whole hybridization between humans and aliens, or these beings, whatever they are.
I actually speculated the other day, Imran, and I did say that I think this is going to be a hot topic coming forward. The reason I think so is I think we're going to see a lot more. This was a few days ago now I said this, but I think we're going to see, that's where we're going to find hard evidence I think, of an alteration, as they're going to call it, or they're going to view it scientifically as an alteration amongst man, where certain branches of humanity seem to have like an anomalous DNA, and this could potentially be the response as to why that happened. Now, I want to just go to the original question, Christopher, because we did blend into some of the speculations. Now, we have an actual definitive response about the giants. So, as you mentioned, Imran, perfectly, the Adam was very large. According to our prophetic traditions, he was very tall, around 90 foot, I believe, if I'm correct in saying that, or 90 yards tall, very tall. And the original humans were that big. And I've seen some speculation, that in an oxygen-rich atmosphere, mammals tend to grow larger in an oxygen-rich. I mean, these are all scientific views of it, but essentially, from our tradition, they were very large. But in the Quran, Allah singles out a very specific group of humanity whom Allah made their stature special. They were bigger than everyone else. They were very strong. In some of the prophetic traditions, not from a Quranic narrative, they used to be able to pull trees out by the root and use them in like weapons and swords. These dudes were giant. And but there isn't any mention of them being the progeny of a hybridization program. Instead, Allah said that, and remember when I created Ad, they were called the Ad. So if you want to find out about them, look up the Ad from a Quranic perspective. And Ad, they were a huge nation of tyrants. Allah said that whenever they seized a land, they would literally obliterate everyone. They weren't like sometimes you get a powerful nation who have like some mercy. These people are not that. They used to roll in and just murk everybody and take everything, and nobody could stop them. And they were a very tyrannical nation, and God sent them a prophet to bring them back to. From the traditions I've read, these people ruled for not like hundreds, thousands of years. So their nation was huge. They built a lot of things. They were very advanced, more advanced than people maybe give credibility to. They were the first group of people to inherit after Noah. So there is some maybe archaeological references that you might find to the huge people, maybe in the carvings on the pyramids, very tall people there. God knows best. They could just be Jinn. I don't want to get into the archaeology. That's a whole new topic, and we've got some experts here as well. I know Hussam and his brother. They're very good with the Egyptology and that. But so the giants, the Ad, they're a completely different nation. Allah destroyed them. And then after them came Thamud, who Allah describes as being a group who are able to carve from rock from great skill. And they are associated with Petra and the ruins in Petra, but they're also associated with building, elaborate, convoluted stone masonry work on very high places on top of mountains, which I think we find across the world. We did reference to that. Again, that's another topic that's open that we could discuss another day. The Quran is a bit, just to clarify to everyone, the Quran is an enigma because it's a book that claims to be from the one above all else, and it's a book to help guide us towards the end of times. And when you look at the scope of the modern world today and the type of topics that are really interesting and the humans want answers to, it's fascinating that you find a book that says it's here to guide us, that it deals with these topics that are so fascinating because it gives us it's given us the answers to the essential questions related to the archaeology that we found, the inferences to the mysterious stuff that we found, and and also it's an answer to the starvation, the spiritual starvation caused by atheism and scientific materialism, which doesn't give us all the answers. So it's like kind of like the antidote to all things. And I'm not just saying that because there's Christians here. I don't want to say that our book's got everything and yours haven't. No, because if you like, we are the inheritors, the baton holders from what was passed on from Jesus and his disciples. We have a different view, perhaps, of the disciples than maybe our Christian brothers do, purely from a perspective that we think we're free from a lot of the things that are associated to them, like, there's a lot of things that, we love the disciples. They're mentioned directly in the Quran. They have their own special name. They're called the Hawariyun, and their story is fascinating. And we particularly like James. James is a legend. He's like the Abu Bakr of, Prophet Muhammad had a close companion. His name was Abu Bakr, and Jesus' close companion was James. So, we have a lot of love for their companions. We kind of see ourselves as baton holders, spiritual inheritors, if you like, rather than being a different religion in the sense that what they were upon is what we're upon. That's how we view it. We kind of look at the church and Paul as kind of like the initiation of a diversion from the original Christianity. And, we see, I'll be honest, we see some modern Christians, not all, but some modern Christians as like victims of that deviation. But that's, again, another topic. I don't want to get into that tonight, guys, because I respect a lot of the Christians today to still be holding on to Christianity after the onslaught that you went through from the psyops and everything else, and to still be there standing proud. Like, respect for that, because it's been hard to just hold on to any religion, let alone Islam. But it's tough out there. I don't know. Maybe I sound a bit pathetic saying that, but we've had years of just absolute beaten down, and to still be like standing tall, respect, especially in America, man. It's tough over there, guys. So yeah, I'm waffling on. I think it's late. It's like hours. I'm ready to roll on. You can carry on with this. I appreciate everyone coming on, but I'm going to pass it over to Sam, Little Moses as well. You got to jump. I'm going to listen to you, Little Mose, out of respect, bruv, because you've always got something cool to share. So, and then after that, I'm going to roll out. But it's been a real cool. Kiki, I'll send you the recitation tomorrow if you don't mind. I when I wake up in the morning, I'll send it over. Yeah, and Maximum as well. You're gonna have to say your bit. Yeah, but let me just jump off now, guys.
Can you just spell the the Arabic word in English transliterated for giant, like the Aid or whatever it was?
Christopher, you're a bit quiet, bro.
So Chris is basically asking, can we spell it out what Ad is in English? So it would be the nation of AD. I think that's how you say it.
I'll share a link. I'll share a link in the comments, bro.
All right, if we can have Lil Moses and then Hassan.
Okay, yeah, thanks for having me on. And real quick, I know you're about to sign off, Bloke, so I'll try to condense this as quick as possible. And I want to talk on two subjects. One, about the giants from an Orthodox Christian perspective, and also the fallen angels. I'll talk about the giants first. And this is, I guess, directed to Christopher, how he said that in the Bible, in Genesis chapter 6, it says the sons of God and the daughters of Adam. And actually, it doesn't say the daughters of Adam, it says the daughters of men. And what the perspective, what we see as the sons of God and the daughters of men are referring to two different bloodlines. And you have the righteous people and the wicked people. The daughters of men were the descendants of Cain, who was the wicked brother who killed his brother Abel. And after Abel died, a son was born to Adam and Eve named Seth. And he was like a goodly child. He was like the replacement for Abel. And it was through Seth that the righteous patriarchs were born, like Enoch, Prophet Enoch, or as you call him in Islam, I think it's Idris, and then all the way down into Noah, who built the ark. He was all these men were in the lineage of Seth, who was a replacement for Abel, who his wicked brother Cain slew. And then then from the very beginning of humanity, you had two bloodlines. You had two camps of people on the world, the sons of God and the daughters of men. The sons of God being the descendants of Seth, and the daughters of men being the descendants of Cain, and the people of men, the children of men. And what happened was when the sons of God were not supposed to intermingle with a wicked bloodline, but because, like the Bible says, they saw that these women were beautiful and they were fair and they desired them, and so they married them. And as a result of that relationship, and granted, the sons of Seth were very tall as well, and the daughters of men were not as strong physically. They weren't the children of Cain were kind of inferior in a way physically. And when the sons of Seth married these daughters of Cain, the tall nature prevailed, and it was almost like a genetic abnormality happened as a result of this forbidden relationship, and that's where the giants came from. And they're called in the Bible the mighty men, the men of renown. So that's kind of, and then of course that's kind of like what that was part of the reason why the flood had to happen, to basically wipe out all this evil that happened. But not only just the giants, it was also because the degradation of the people had really spiraled out of control. And as far as the sons of God, the descendants of Seth, there's actually, up until the time of Noah, you had very few people that were good. It was basically Methuselah, Lamech, Lamech was the father of Noah, and then Noah himself. And the Bible says that Noah was perfect in his generations. And when he says generations, I can look at it as two ways. He was perfect in the generation that amongst the wicked that he lived in, and also he was perfect in his generation as his genetics. His DNA was not tampered with. He was a pure vessel. And so God chose him is not just because of his upright character, but because of his racial characteristics. His DNA was not altered or in any way. So he was able to, that through Noah and his three sons and their wives, the whole world would be able to be repopulated again. So that's why we look at that from an Orthodox Christian perspective, the sons of God and the daughters of men. And also, and I'll finish up and then I'll stop, is the fallen angels. We believe that Lucifer fell from grace, and when he fell, he took a third of the angels with him. The third of the angels followed Lucifer, and they became demons. And the reason why the demons hate man so much is because man was created in God's image, and the demons hate God. So every time they see a man, it reminds them of God, who they hate, and so they hate men. So anyway, I just want to say that, and I'll relinquish the mic.
Thanks, dude. I've got some questions, and due to our latest, I know you're gonna pop back another day, and we'll pick back up on that. I've definitely got a few questions, not to challenge, just to learn a bit more. And I didn't know about the daughters of men theory being separate from the sons of God, as you said, the holy ones, because I know that linguistically, the sons of God doesn't necessitate a bloodline of God, as you like, but because that was a name. Anyway, it's another discussion, isn't it? So that was fascinating, little Moses. I want to learn a bit more about that. I'll leave it with you, Fark, because as soon as you wrap this up, I'm going to roll out. So I'll leave it with you for now. I'm just going to listen quietly, guys. Thanks to everybody, and I'm just going to listen quietly. And when it's over with, I'm going to roll out. Yeah.
For sure. I think go on.
Yeah, no, so I wanted to ask Andrew a question.
Go for it.
Yeah, go ahead. You can ask, and then I think we'll end with Hassan after you.
Word, I'm blocking Andrew's sleep right now. But in general, I wanted to ask you, because I remember we were speaking about the technology, and we was talking about how technology itself probably is, has been gifted to us by the Jinn. You spoke about how phones, the concept of phones, or at least the prototype anyway, was, it was given to people, 800 or 900 years ago. And so sort of my question is, how do you think these phones, the technology, is affecting human beings, seeing that it's not necessarily native to us? It's like sort of what effects do you think it's sort of having on the human body? I know people have spoken about 5G, that they've spoken about the negative effect of technology itself on the physical body. So I just wanted to know how you sort of interpret that.
I appreciate the question, man. I think there's a very good example recently of how technology can perform the same desired effects as magic does. And the Quran, magic is, we believe it's real, and magic isn't like just sleight of hand. There is an element of bamboozlement in magic that, where you can trick the eye and make people think they've seen something when it hasn't happened, or that type of magic is a magic in Islamic theology. But then there's the other type of magic, and that which is in its essence, it's what the Quran mentions is they learn from the devils that which separate husband from wife. So it's a type of control, a type of mind control, or manipulation, if you like, not control. Maybe manipulation is a better word. Where it's so powerful that the very physical and beautiful relationship between a husband and wife can be sullied and destroyed through this type of influence. And it is Jinn related, no doubt about it. They use the devils to do this. The way in which these mobile phones and the associated, let's call it the technology, because it started with movies and cartoons and that, it has cultured man and woman to have a certain view and it's made relationships super combative. I don't know if everyone agrees with me, but I've seen these videos online where there's boys there, Muslims, some of them, or claim to be Muslims, some of them, and they sit there and they just berate the other sex, and then girls would do the same thing. And they look at, their relationship with a man perhaps as like a step up. I'm with this guy for now, but if someone who's better, the grass is green, I'm going to step up on, and I'm going to use this one to get to him. And, the way in which the mobile phones and modern technology in particular has cultured the relationship between husband and wife and between father and daughter, son and mother, and other aspects, the way it's treated. And even in general, the parent-child relationship has changed. Children have very much a learning in school that they have to have a certain rights. And if the parents, and I'm not saying there's all good parents out there, some parents are awful people, but that's because they were dragged up as well. I think that we're seeing the byproduct of what magic would do through these devices. And one prime example of that was the recent phenomena. And forgive me, guys, I don't know who's in this room. Please don't see this as like me saying that you're bad people. But I think that when you're a victim, sometimes you don't know you're a victim when you are. And that was the very strange, and I'm fairly sure there's an investigation going on behind closed doors about this, the very strange trans phenomena that occurred over the last few years, where it's like almost like somebody clicked a switch, and all of a sudden a lot of people started thinking they were a different sex. And I think that part of that is the mobile phone, or in particular social media and things like that. And it was like somebody clicked a switch and everybody was thinking that I'm something else. And was it a test from a type of technology that's associated with the mobile phone, where they send in these signals? Is it related to that Marconi cover-up back in the 1980s, whereby multiple people working on a strange type of technology that uses waves, particularly electromagnetic waves, through the TV to alter people's minds and cause some sort of temporary mind control, where 30 suicides occurred, and that was here in the UK. Is it something like that, or is it a bit more insidious? Is it to do with the Jinn? I don't know. There's a lot of speculation there, but one thing is for sure, everybody went mental a little bit very quickly about relationships between husband and wife, or man and woman, and then their own identity as a human being. And I think that there's the hallmarks of the devil all over it, man. But I know it's late and I might sound like a bit of a nut job. People are just maybe tuning out or putting their tinfoil hats on.
If I could add just one little thing, because I also find that there's like a similar parallel with the rise in like plastic surgery, and the parallel that I see here is that it creates this self-hatred, and this struggle for self-acceptance, of your body. I'm
gonna keep nattering on, man.
For sure. All right, Hassan, I know, you've been waiting. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. It's been 1 hour waiting. I wanted to make a point that I was not able to make last time. But let me just give a comment first about the connection about changing the creation of God and the UFO phenomena. That within the same verse that my brother Farouk just mentioned, but the statement before that people, which would remind us all with Chris Bledsoe and the lady, that people think that they are invoking female deities, but they are not invoking anyone except a rebellious Satan that said, I will order them to mutilate the cattle and change the creation of God. I just wanted to make the connection clear with invoking the lady and female goddess that they think they are. So that just was the comment. And the point that I wanted to make at the beginning, since this is the end of the space, I believe, So I think that's very important point, a theory that I want you all to think about it. So since we all know that even the governments and non-governments working to normalize the idea of the existence of non-human intelligence, so I don't know, not too much people saw this timeline, but I have noticed that for example, the first Pentagon report that was in 2021, 25 of June, actually. Before that, with a few days, within the same month, at the 6th of June, 2021, everyone staying at home, and even like people trying to watch some stuff, play some games, even non-gamers start to play games. There was a game that's very famous called Fortnite, and Fortnite at the 6th of June, the same month of the Pentagon report, has released a season called Invasion. It's talking about alien invasion, and also after 19 days, Netflix has released a documentary about the aliens that was called UFO Project Disclosure or something like that, and they had already some pictures of the report and CGI of Louis Elizondo only few weeks after the report was shown up. So it means that there was a preparation earlier to normalize and starting to make people to see or to know about this idea. People who's only watching Netflix or gamers or watching the Congress. So, but the point that I want to make that since we discussed about the child abuse and child sacrifice that related to invoke some kind of dark forces, even in Egypt that I was talking about before, what they do to before opening the tombs to get the treasures, what they do that they say we have to make a child sacrifice, and it's very sadly knowing that it's happening in Egypt. Even during this day in 2025, some kids get kidnapped and sacrificed before opening the tombs, and they say this is to make the guardians of the tombs to allow us to enter and find the treasures. So the point I wanted to make, since there is like a plan is going on to normalize this, the theory that I have that even we know that what is going on or what was going on on the Epstein Island could be related in some way in what they call or so-called a temple of Epstein Island. So the theory I wanted to share with you guys, I don't, it's just my own theory. I feel it's part of the normalization that's going on is that what we see in the recent 2 years and a half or something in a place that supposedly it's holy for the three religions, and its intention targeting of childs that's going on daily basis and bloodshed on daily basis. That sounds to me that, okay, are they trying to invoke something by doing bloodshed and targeting childs on daily basis, part of the plan that they are doing for something bigger? That's the theory that I wanted to share. Maybe anyone would like to shake his head about it by himself.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So what I do know is that before they do any sort of major sort of thing, whether it be the New World Order, whether it be, any sort of thing that they're trying to implant into society, they'll do sacrifices. The bigger the sacrifice, also the bigger the thing that they want to do, I think the more that the Jinn require from them in terms of sacrifice. And so what you'll see is that literally before any moving into a new world order, there's a huge war, there's a huge calamity, whether it be COVID, whether it be, a huge market incident. They do these things on purpose because they know that, when there's extreme sort of situations happen and they're negative, people commit suicide, people die. If it's a war, obviously people die. So yeah, it's you know, when it comes to, and it's an inversion of, you know, the way of God, essentially the way of Allah, because essentially, you know, the bigger the sort of thing that they want to do, like the sacrifice sort of thing, the more evil the acts have to be for them to get what they want to get. So as you kind of grow and you gain power in those circles, they want you to do more heinous things on a larger scale. So I kind of agree. I definitely agree with what you're saying, Hassan. I think that would be the context.
You know, the connection up there, you know, is beautiful, man. I do want to wrap it up because I know there's a lot of people, you know, especially Imran and Farouk, they have been on Spaces for the last probably 4 hours. So I really appreciate it, guys. We'll be doing this next Friday as well. So tune in, make sure you follow. So that way, you know, you guys can join in. I know Lil Moses, Christopher, you guys had some questions to ask, but we can just do that next week. All right, man. See you guys next week then. Bye.